But it does look like Naughty Dog. These are the people that are making Intergalactic. It looks like Naughty Dog is not doing very well.
The suffering of generations must be endured to achieve our divine end. The reveal trailer for Naughty Dog's next game.
What is this?
The suffering of generations must be endured to achieve our divine end.
That sounds like something a terrorist would say.
The reveal trailer for Naughty Dog's next game. It's called Intergalactic, the Heretic Prophet, and they printed this on a commemorative coin that they gave to their staff for 2025. And do you know what's really funny about this? It's not just a game thing, it's pretty much actually true, because functionally, that is the work ethic of Naughty Dog's leadership.
How's that?
And what we're going to dive into today is all of the reporting around just how much of a disaster it seems their internal game development has been. You see, they just put
any company that remakes the same game 5 times, they're bad. Things are not going well for them at all.
Staff through nearly 2 months of big crunch.
Yeah, how many times have they remade The Last of Us?
Demo.
Holy shit.
And the thing is, the full game isn't even planned to release for years, which just makes us think, hang on a second. Are you basically going to be crunching for years upon years to make any of this happen? You see, for years we've heard...
I thought a crunch lasts for like 2 weeks, not 2 years.
Hell stories about Naughty Dog. Basically them just throwing bodies at the problem and burning through their staff. Well, doesn't seem like much has changed. In March 2020, The Last of Us Part 2 was getting ready for release after loads and loads of delays. Back at the time, Jason Schreier was working for Kotaku, and he dropped this bombshell report. And I really do mean bombshell. In it, we learned that Naughty Dog was crunching, and crunching hard. Staff were describing 12-hour days and weekend work.
12-hour days and weekends, too? Holy fuck. Like, I remember at the IRS you had to do that. Like, you didn't have to, but they gave you the option to work like that, but that was only for, like, 2 weeks during, like, like, right during the tax season.
Pretty much going on and on for a long-ass time. The sort of thing that we in the industry would call a death march. And it was all in service of getting the game ready at absolutely any cost. But to make things even worse, Jason's report wasn't just about The Last of Us Part 2. It actually revealed that this crunch stuff was going on as far back as 2016's Uncharted 4. Now, that's a game that Neil Druckmann, the co-director, kind of darkly described as a reflection on the drive that leads many people in game development to crunch. Which is
this is also, I mean, I think the problem too is that in a lot of game dev, the people that have like really high level skills in game dev, in some cases, they can get other jobs in other places, like in defense, for example, or financial tech, and they can get paid like 3 times as much money and not be treated like effectively an NPC.
It's rather easy to say when,
so you're having like a brain drain that's happening because anybody who has like very, very high level technological and like, ability to, like program things or code things or do anything in a really good way, they're obviously going to be leaving and they're going to go work somewhere where they're paid better and they're treated better. It's like, would you rather work at Lockheed Martin or Naughty Dog? I mean, come on. I wonder which one pays
you're
better.
Kind of the boss.
Ah, jeez,
to
guys.
make this sort of thing relevant to like you and me, I just have it in my head. What's been going on with Naughty Dog? Why has their output kind of decreased over time? Why has a lot of it been like remakes, remasters, that kind of thing? And I have to wonder if they've just lost a lot of their staff because they've ended up being a bit of a shit place to work. Now,
I think Blizzard had this happen too, where like you just lose people from like your job because nobody wants to sit there and work at a company where you're just being worked to death. There's no real prestige in working at Blizzard anymore. Back in the day, you said you worked at Blizzard and people ask you 50 questions about WoW. Nowadays, you say you worked at Blizzard, they ask you 50 questions about sexual assault and breast milk.
After that report went out, it seemed leadership kind of understood the problem. They
Not
said
so
that
good.
They wanted to improve things after 2020, basically between the shift to remote work and the abuse that staff suffered during the launch window leaks. And by 2022, sources actually told Jason Schreier that a freshly implemented production team had actually improved things for the company. For a bit of a quote on that, well, in 2024, the QA lead
Grounded 2 was well liked.
Explained in a documentary how things had changed. Though obviously, given the existence of this video, I'm not too sure how it went. Here's what he said. When we onboard people, we tell them we have a reputation as a studio for crunching, and it's something that we don't want. And it's something we're not going to do anymore. I hate to shock you, but the reports are that they are in fact doing it again.
No way!
And in this case, it is down to pressure. And that's because by the end of 2025, Naughty Dog were under severe pressure. Look, if you don't want to code or you're not into games, skip this. But if not, then I have got something for you, and that is boot.dev/Bellular News. They're today's sponsor.
It takes about 3 or 4 years, 3 or 4 for a company to complete its death spiral where bad staffing and financial decisions become unrecoverable. Yeah, I think that's true too. Is that like it doesn't turn into being a big problem immediately, but like, you know, the problems that Blizzard started manifesting publicly in like 2020 or so, by the time it was 2024 or 2025, you see a lot of their games losing a huge amount of their audience, right? At least in terms of like any sort of public viewership or like people paying attention to them. I think that's what's happened.
Where the fuck were they a decade ago?
Anthem shutting down tomorrow?
University.
Yeah, of course.
You see, I've got a BA in computer science, and from doing that, I can tell you that Boot teaches this stuff incalculably better. Now, what they teach you is back-end development. That's the kind that lands 100K plus comp jobs, and they do it through a proper 12-month structure.
100K plus jobs in game development. Now, if you work at Endurial, I bet it might be more.
Program that's like a role-playing game. I mean, literally.
I've just got a feeling.
A Discord that actually helps. And over 750,000 students have completed 33.7 million lessons, which is wild. And that's including TypeScript, Go, and Python from the fundamentals up. So this is not some learn to code in 2 weeks silly scam thing.
We're all about the same depending on experience.
The fundamentals that separate professional developers from vibe coders who ship security nightmares. And just take a look at their new training ground
That's what I would do.
It's kind of wild. It knows what you've learned on their platform, and then it uses that to challenge you, basically generating personalized coding problems using spaced repetition, so you actually learn. It's always growing.
Did Iran implode yet?
And
Not
you can
yet.
actually browse
We're waiting.
all of their contents for completely free. You only pay when you want to get stuck into all the interactivity and game-related stuff. To learn it all properly and get 25% off your first purchase, go to boot.dev/Bellular News. The way to save the most money is to do that on the annual plan, and of course
that way
that's backed up by the fact that if you're not
get
happy,
replaced by AI next year.
You on the spot.
Obviously.
What we're talking about today then is 7 weeks of mandatory and seemingly unpaid overtime for
7 weeks of mandatory unpaid overtime?
Dog staff.
Oh my god, this game's gonna be garbage.
So the team found themselves crunching again, even though we had all of this PR stuff saying that, oh no, we don't do that sort of thing anymore.
Jesus.
Now, this is an allegation that's coming from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, and in his report, he cites...
I feel like Jason Schreier, like, I mean, I don't really take that guy very seriously anymore in terms of, like, actually, I don't know, has he really gotten things wrong that are, like, industry things? Because he gets a lot of like kind of social and like, you know, ideology stuff. I think he's totally fucking off base on that. He's a fucking moron. But maybe industry stuff, he's still locked in.
Working on Intergalactic.
The digital plantation.
Of them, well, it was at a minimum 8 hours of extra log development time per week.
That's not so bad.
Office, and that this was overriding their previous 3-day per week policy.
Yeah.
That's 3 days of having to work physically in the office.
Oh, yeah.
Now, obviously, if you're working 8 hours more a week and you're not being paid for those 8 hours, I think something's going fairly wrong.
I don't know if he did
now, it's on surface level weird, but I think is not surprising.
I heard people say
that in theory, leadership had actually placed guardrails on this sort of thing, trying to prevent it from happening.
No. Every guardrail is only one crisis away from being done. That this is all bullshit. Unless it is a literal law, they will break any rule they have to meet a deadline if they have to do it. Everybody knows this. Obviously, that's going to happen.
But in practice,
it's a plastic guardrail.
We're telling staff they shouldn't work for more than 60 hours total each week. Obviously, that's quite a lot. So basically, staff had to end up threading a needle here. They had to meet management's demands without making management look bad on the actual official logs. You know, do a whole bunch of crunch, but make sure that your actual logs cover your boss's ass. Seems sketchy. Now, we currently understand...
It seems sketchy because it is sketchy. A lot of people fuck around with different types of worksheets and payroll. Like even at the IRS, people were filling in, you know, they would come back from lunch at 4:35 and they would put that they came back at 4:30 and, you know, all kinds of stuff like that. It's super common.
and that the crunch period has actually ended.
Super annoying, but yeah.
Completed the demo before Christmas,
illegal,
meaning
doesn't
they
matter.
can return to basically normal work, including doing 3 days in the office as of January. But given that this sort of thing happened for an internal demo, so not the sort of thing you should need to crunch out, people are kind of worrying. And by worrying, well, I have a quote. They are wondering if overtime requirements will get worse later in the development cycle.
Oh, are things going to get worse? Oh, guys, I work at a company that's famous for this. Is it gonna happen more? Oh, we're 2 years out and we're already having to show up and do overtime. Oh, man, guys. Well, I'm glad we're doing overtime now. That way we won't have to do it whenever the game's about to ship, right? Right?
Do you really have to wonder? I think we all know that's going to happen. I mean, if the past is even a slight indicator with this company, is absolutely going to happen. Because, you see, this stuff was not about the release of the game. That's not what they were crunching for.
Of course.
The game isn't even expected until mid-2027.
Wow.
Let's place bets on whether that'll happen or not.
It won't.
It's not currently some Last of Us Part 2 scenario. What this was all about was crunching a demo because of the internal pressure that Naughty Dog have been facing. And this is where I have another quote from Jason's report.
Uh-oh, here we go.
This overtime period was an attempt to get the production back on track after several missed deadlines.
Guys, this is the last time you're going to have to work 12 hours a day. I know the product doesn't come out for 2 more years. I know. But this is the last time. This is it. It's like an abusive relationship.
And if you've been keeping up with what's going on at Sony, you'll know that there's probably quite a threat looming over the studio.
I bet there is.
This crunch is about shipping a demo for PlayStation. Now, milestone reviews are perfectly standard, and in non-first-party games, they're usually how you unlock your next stage of funding. So, you hit a milestone, you get your money. And this basically allows for feedback, course correction, and it lets publishers protect their money if development is completely going wrong.
This is the same with almost anything whenever you're doing investment. I mean, obviously.
If several missed deadlines, which is a direct quote from Jason's reporting, have already passed, then that does suggest something has gone deeply wrong at Naughty Dog, and has gone wrong at the worst possible time.
Yep.
And that's because right now, PlayStation are out for blood
after Concord.
You see, in their 2024 business segment reports, Herman Hulst explained that they had, and I'll now go to a quote from the man himself, changed the way we support studios through central services, greater operational rigor, which, you know, by the way, if you're at one of those studios, is what we call a veiled threat.
Yeah.
But also, you know, probably wise. But to go back to Herman, a much more intentional top-down approach to portfolio, increased oversight of our development.
Greater operational rigor? Let me guess what that really means. You have to work more, right? I'm just guessing.
And he goes on.
It's like a corporate translation.
You can basically understand that it's all in service of reducing costs, keeping their budgets on track, and, quote, balancing profit potential with associated risks. You know, not having another Concord.
It's like kinetic solutions. What's the kinetic solution? We bomb the people that we don't like, and they blow up. It's kinetic energy. Oh, that makes a lot more sense.
Basically. And this is why 2 unannounced live service games at Bluepoint and Bend were cancelled in early 2025. Now, the timing here is actually real important. Early 2025 is before Concord goes and lights itself on fire and dies.
Yes.
So even before Concord imploded, PlayStation had already decided they were trying to get their risk in order. And by that time, we'd already had plenty of evidence. They'd laid off 8% of their employees globally, and they closed down London studios in early 2024. That's all stuff that can't be blamed on Concord.
Yes.
And those layoffs also did impact Naughty Dog. All of that feeds into this story. I mean, if Naughty Dog aren't immune to layoffs, which we already know they're not, and
nobody
is. Several deadlines, which reports say that they have, well, would they be immune to having a game cancelled? Now, PlayStation have shown that, say with Marathon, they're willing to throw money at a project if they really have to, but
I think that they're already cooked with Marathon. I think Marathon's going to come out, people are going to play it for like 3 days, and then they're going to say Arc Raiders is better, and then everybody's going to go right back to playing Arc Raiders. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Marathon is going to be it's going to be a disaster.
A game like Intergalactic, well, that's over a year away.
Yeah.
And if Naughty Dog had already missed several milestones...
And here's another thing, is that Intergalactic is a single-player video game. Like, a multiplayer video game generally costs less money to make, number one. And number two, they also have more avenues that they can make money. A single-player video game doesn't have as many vectors that it can make money off of you, unless it's selling gacha mechanics and other types of, like, weird free-to-play monetization tricks. So, really, if you're making a single-player video game for a premium fee, you really have to have either low production costs, like Sucker Punch had with Ghost of Yotai, number one, or you need to have crazy sales numbers like Game Science had with Black Myth Wukong. You either have to have one or the other. Like, you can't make one of these video games and afford for it to flop. Wuthering Waves, well, it's a single player game, basically, right? It can be played. It's also got gacha in it too.
Maybe this increased scrutiny could have pushed them back to their old habits.
There's no it factor in Marathon.
Crunch
You're right.
Arguably gutted a lot of that studio's power, maybe even leading them to the stage where they're struggling to hit their targets.
Yeah.
And of course, all of this is especially the case because the studio's leadership has actually been changing. And I think it all basically means big alarm bells are ringing. Since 2023, Neil Druckmann has been studio head and head of creative at Naughty Dog, leading a revamped team right as Intergalactic production was kicking off. But he actually wasn't working on Intergalactic full-time. His attention had been split.
I think Neil Druckmann has done irreversible damage to video games. He has. I think that he is trying to be the Western version of what's his name? Fucking, he's at every single Game Awards. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. What's his fucking name? Everybody knows what his fucking name is. What's his fucking name? Kojima. Okay, there it is. Just totally drew a blank on that. Yes, Hideo Kojima. So yeah, you're trying to be the Western version of Kojima, but you didn't make Metal Gear Solid 1 when you were in your 20s. You didn't do that. That wasn't you. You weren't that guy. And now he's trying to go out and be this person and be like, and I think this is the other issue, is that there's this entire like kind of like group of these people that are these like kind of millennial Gen X tortured artist type people that have all the darkness inside of them that want to make these cringe video games that nobody actually cares about. And I think that's generally what Neil Druckmann represents. I think it does. I think The Last of Us Part 2, everybody thought it was cringe. Just the way he talks about things is cringe. Everything about him is cringe, in my opinion. I think he represents the wanting to use video games to be a pipeline into Hollywood because you want to be seen as like a narrative visionary, but instead of actually sticking to what you're great at, which is video games, you try to make video games into these like weird movie experiences rather than try to just make good games. It's pretentious. Like, actually, you know what? I'm talking about this so much. Yes, they're pretentious, obnoxious theater kids. That's what they are. And I hate to say it, I actually was in theater class whenever I was in school. I was. Can you guess that? Wow. And so, yes. And I would play multiple roles in plays. I would, do the jokes and all that. Yes. But, like, I left theater class and I went into networking class. And I was in the computer lab, okay, guys? So it's okay. So I went from being a loser into being a nerd.
Between developing the Last of Us TV show, which, of course, is something the PlayStation have been very happy to support, given, game sales.
Is that where Mossad trained you?
Remember, those game sales
they trained me on Windows
for
XP.
Super old versions of the game. No, they're for the brand new remasters that are still selling for quite a lot of money.
Yep.
So that was going on. But then in September, he actually announced he was returning to Naughty Dog before the filming of season 3 of the TV show.
Oh, good.
Basically, he said he'd be...
See, this is what I was saying, right? They want to be in Hollywood. They want to be movie stars and, like, famous people. And so they're using video games. Like, I hate how some video games aren't games anymore. They're like these weird cringe movie things. Like, I hate them. They're so boring to me. You know what kind of games I like? I'm just going to pull this up real quick. Like, I like games that are like Dragon's Dogma 2. I like Dragon Ball Z Sparking Zero. Obviously, I like Dark Souls. I like Code Vein. Like Ball Pit. How about Ball Pit? We like Ball Pit. Yeah, I respect Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'm supposed to like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Lords of the Fallen, right? These are actual real video games. Monster Hunter Wilds, a real video game. Ninja Gaiden 4, a real video game. Like, I'm so sick of these cringe, weird fucking movies. They're so obnoxious. Yeah, I want games. I don't want to play a video game and just watch something happen.
From day-to-day work, and that other leaders had stepped up while he was focusing on the show.
Beat the whole thing off stream.
A month later,
shitty
Naughty Dog would begin crunching their staff to hit the demo deadline.
What a piece of shit that was.
I cannot tell you that there is a direct causal link between the return of Druckmann and the crunch that followed. I can't say that Neil just walked back into the office and said, "I'm getting the whip out, boys. Get working, because Herman's going to kill us all."
I think it's also probably because he seems like the type of creative person that will change what they want. And I think this is another big issue, is that a lot of work that people do, especially early on in a project, is recursive. So they're doing something again because they're changing it. And so that's really the problem whenever you have somebody that's not able to like really have a cohesive vision and they can't deliver on like a product and know exactly what they want. Then, especially whenever you have a new person coming in and then taking the reins, now you're probably going to have to do even more. Scope creep? Yeah, exactly. If you have somebody who's a visionary, that's a scope creeper. That's a big one.
That happened, or if it didn't happen. So read this as events that are happening in and around the same time, but are not necessarily causal.
Rich told me to play.
But what we can do is we can look at all the pressure that is building on Naughty Dog. We do see a PlayStation that is increasingly ruthless about cutting projects that don't come together. Yeah. We have a studio head who has returned after the studio had missed multiple deadlines, and a weakened mid-level management that apparently hasn't been able to deliver a project without hurting its staff. All of that combined into nearly 2 months of crunch. And that is because crunch, in a way, is actually the easy way out. You know, I can predict that the video comments are going to be full of people saying,
"Oh my
God, these entitled goddamn game developers with basically fake jobs sitting at computers. What a bunch of whiny crybabies. How about they go outside and do a real man's job?"
It's true. That's actually true, is that jobs inside of entertainment are treated as luxury jobs. And so anybody who complains about a job inside of entertainment doesn't really have any empathy from the public. Even though a coder that's working at, let's say Blizzard Entertainment, maybe their workflow and their life experience is actually very similar to a coder that's working at Microsoft, or they're working at Google, or it's like more similar. Obviously, it's never going to be a one-to-one, but people don't see it that way because you're seen as being able to work on video games. It's like, oh my God, this is a dream job. Like streaming is like this, for example, is that a lot of people view streaming as a dream job. So anybody who complains about streaming is a fucking retard. The reality is that streaming is a dream job and it's really fun and I love doing it, but there are negatives with streaming too, just like anything. But the reality is also that anybody inside of an entertainment job doesn't really get the empathy that other people that are inside of, like let's say you're a first responder, you're a nurse, you're a police officer. I think that they have a lot more like cultural like support. Maybe not police officers nowadays, but like the other ones have more cultural support than like, let's say a game developer does, which is like, and I understand why. I'm not saying that they don't deserve it, but what I am saying is that everybody to a degree deserves it. But society, I think out of jealousy, envy, or, sour grapes, decides that certain people, especially people that have what are considered prestige or luxury jobs, don't have the right to express the way that they feel about those jobs. I heard streaming starts are still a lot more than a 9-to-5 job. I mean, there are things negative about streaming for sure. It can be emotionally draining, mentally draining, definitely.
It'll be there in the comments. And look, I know what it's like, say, crunching to get a conservatory done in time. You got to dig the foundations in time for the concrete that's arriving or something. And you can't wait. The job has to be done.
And there's also like a huge issue too with crunch is that I've experienced crunch from both perspectives. I've done it from a worker's perspective, and I've also done it from a business leader or a founder's perspective. And one thing is that crunch, whenever you're a founder and a business leader, can actually become fun. Working 24/7 is actually fun because you're fully immersed in this world and this life, it's like a lifestyle for you, right? You have like the founder mindset where you're just working on something all day, all night. It's kind of like what I would assume being in any sort of like really, really serious job would be. Like you're out on an oil field or something like that. And like you kind of are transported to like a whole other universe whenever you're just in this mode. But the difference is that the reason why a founder or a business leader or a C-level executive can have that mindset is because they're personally invested in the outcome of what's going to happen because of that crunch or that, you know, like 24/7 lifestyle. But the difference is that whenever you ask somebody who's salaried to try to maintain that 24/7 lifestyle, their stock isn't going to go up. They're not going to get a profit incentive. They're not going to get a pay bonus or anything like that. You know, there's not a sales goal they need to hit. All they need to do is just keep hitting the button and doing the thing. And so there's a huge disconnect between the way that founders and leadership see crunch and big time sink time periods inside of accomplishing a goal and the way that employees see it. Because founders and leadership see the benefits disproportionately more than the actual workers do. So you can't use the same motivational we're all in this together thing. Well, if you're all in this together, then why are you getting all the money? And so that's the big issue that I think a lot of people, military is definitely like that. It is. I didn't want to compare it to that because I thought it would be inappropriate considering, like, I mean, being in a combat zone or military deployment is like infinitely harder than working at a computer, right? But I do think that, you know, from what I've heard and what people have said, yeah, it's kind of like, it's the same psychological concept, although I'm sure it's probably elevated a lot more. But, you know, working any job like that where you're just completely gone is very, very much like that. And I think that's the big issue why these companies have these problems with crunch, is that the leadership doesn't have the understanding of why it's so deteriorating and demoralizing for the workers. And maybe they do have it, they just don't care. But either way, it's not addressed.
That's basically, you know, my family business. I know what's up there, but a video game is not the same as building a
game burn out my job. Yeah, exactly.
I know that a lot of construction projects are a hell of a lot more complicated, but
no
basically,
doubt.
Stay with me here. Software is extremely complex, and while crunch will actually get you, it will actually work. You see, that's the thing. Crunch will work in a limited and specific fashion.
Well, it's like doing steroids. Steroids will work, but they're going to cause you ED in the long run. And that ED, whenever you're a company, is having your talent quit and go to other companies that give them a better work-life balance. And so now you're impotent.
Through a lot of technical debt, you will wear out your team.
Being honest.
Because in a world where there's a bit of crunch here and there, because, hey, it's the real world, shit goes wrong, I think that's basically okay.
This game is ED, it is.
But when crunch just becomes the default way to sort things out, well, maybe that's how you end up with a studio like Naughty Dog. One that
and it's also like, he's right about that. Whenever there isn't a massive cost to crunch, the leadership will not consider a crunch a bad thing. They will just consider it a necessity. Because if to them, it doesn't matter if they're working 80 hours a day because, you know, I'm always working that much and there's no real buy-in from the leadership in terms of the extra amount of work that they have to do, or the leadership gets a disproportionate advantage of it, like what I just said. That's whenever there's a disconnect between like the work experience with the leadership versus the actual people that are working.
Not able to hit its basic deadlines and has not been able to hit multiple of them in a row, basically meaning that Druckmann
someday you're important, other days you're
being forced to
impotent.
come back.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And it's weird because the studio have been talking about fixing the crunch practices for years. They
only say that publicly so the company looks like a better place to work. That's the only reason why. They don't care about that internally, other than the fact that it's self-preservation to maybe not lose as many good devs. They don't actually care about the developers, the same as every other company doesn't.
It's bad. They know it's literally hurting the strength of their team and therefore hurting the amount of video game that they can produce for you. And every time, the people involved probably do mean it when they say they really don't want crunch. They can see they're exhausting their staff. They know that it's contributing to attrition. And from what we understand, attrition is fairly high at this studio, even though it's a studio that quite literally makes industry-defining games. But the thing is, crunch does actually ship games, and it has been shipping games for 20 years, 30 years. We have
overworking people at the end of a deadline is something that's been happening ever since deadlines were invented. Like, obviously, this is going to happen. It happens at From Software. I bet they had crunch for Elden Ring, I'm sure. But the difference is that it's the degree of it, the buy-in for it, and the frequency of it.
Lots of different terms for it. BioWare Magic
Severity
is one of them. And more than that, it ships games that top the charts and win critical acclaim. So, yeah, they may make some changes.
And that's also another thing. He's right about that, is that If you want to make employees happy, win. If you make a really good popular game, I think more people would be willing to buy in for it, right? Somebody's willing to work 20 hours, 20 hours extra to make Elden Ring ship. But do they want to work 20 hours extra to ship Concord? Probably fucking not.
Critical acclaim. So,
yeah, like, let's be honest.
They may make some changes and try to
because people can't be proud of their work.
Seemingly, they still do miss the deadlines. They find their build isn't ready for review. It happens again. It happens again.
The reason why crunch doesn't always work is because if you're bad at budgeting and, time allocation, then you're probably also going to be bad at other things too. Right, crunch in a lot of cases, sometimes it's necessary, but it's also an indicator of bad leadership and bad planning. And I'm sure, do you really think bad planning only manifests in this one area? I mean, just you think about it logically.
Again, something's gone
Mark's
wrong
right about
in
the alienation
process.
from work.
Now they see Sony are cutting staff all over the place. They're killing projects. And maybe Naughty Dog starts to actually get scared because something's gone wrong in planning, and that does not change the fact that they need to ship their work. They can't go back in time to fix the plan, but what they can do is ask more of their staff. That's the easy thing to do, because for a studio like them, ask more.
Employees are instructed not to work more than 60 hours a week
of their staff. That's the easy thing to do, because for a studio like them, it has basically worked every time before. And maybe this early crunch means that staff will avoid crunch whenever release approaches. But it's almost always the case that crunching and crunching and crunching means technical debt and burnt out.
Yeah, it does. People get burned out completely. Crunch is fine when you have a visionary leader like Elon who can replace people who burn out. The difference also with somebody like Elon is that he's making a rocket ship that goes all the way around the planet. So if you are in aerospace, engineering, SpaceX is where you want to be. Like, you have like an added, like, the thing is that people don't understand how much an individual's passion for something can be a driving factor for them working harder. So if you have things that people are genuinely excited about working on and doing, then you can use that as a force multiplier to get them to work even harder. But, like, I mean, again, Elon's making SpaceX, he's doing fucking Starlink, they're doing X, and so, like, you're working on cutting edge, state-of-the-art, high-quality stuff that, is worldwide famous. But when you're just making shitty video games that you're not feeling confident about, then imagine how much less somebody would be motivated to do something like that.
Staff, all things that reduce the efficiency of your team, the efficiency of your development, which probably means that, if I were you, I certainly wouldn't put money on Intergalactic actually coming out when it's supposed to come
Somebody
out.
Goes to face for a job, they go for passion. Exactly.
Knowledge that the crunch did pay off, that they did win. They completed their demo, but more than that, they actually won an award. It's the inaugural Workers' Choice Award for Worst Crunch Culture at the
I didn't even know they had this.
AAA union-hosted Avarice Awards. I wonder what sort of staff reports they got. It'd be pretty cool if one of those staff reports made it into my email inbox. I'd love to hear. But anyway, that is it for this video. Now you guys know what's up. Let me know what your bets are on when Intergalactic will come out, or if it will even come out. And to the award-winning management team at Naughty Dog, congratulations. It's great to see you guys get yet another win. I hope it was worth it. But speaking of worth it, lots of your effort has actually been worth it, because a lot of legal stuff is changing with gaming, and in a way that you will feel.
When did the last actual game come out?
All of what's going on there, check out this video next.
Grounded 2. Yeah, Grounded 2 is their last big game. Do 3 animation for graphics and a living. I love it. I don't feel like I work at all, even when I have to work crazy hours to get a project done on time. It's a blessing to love what you do for a living, for sure. It absolutely is. Yeah, 100% that's the case. And let me link you guys a video. I haven't watched a Bellior video for a while, and I wanted to get through it because I feel like for a long time, we haven't really looked at a lot of the gaming stuff at all. As I said, crunch, whenever you're not working on a state-of-the-art product, and especially whenever morale is low, it's just going to totally kill people.